Hi, I'm Madison and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my September wrap-up. So the month of September was actually not a great reading month for me. I was putting everything down on the numbers to make this video and I was like, wow, I read a shit ton of 3-star books. Now, 3-star does not mean it was a bad book, but it does mean that I read a lot of books that I was just like, yeah, this was a good read. And that was it. So I read 8 books in the month of September. This is my lowest reading month all year. Not surprised because the first 2 weeks of September I was super busy with weddings and engagements and concerts and everything, and I had people visiting me for 2 weeks straight. So I got jack all reading done. Out of those 8 books, 7 of them were adult and 1 of them was new adult. 5 of them I read physically and 3 of them I read on ebook. I read 5 romances, 1 erotica, 1 sci-fi and 1 urban fantasy. And my page count for this month is 2,849. If you're new to my channel, the way that I go through my ratings for the month is that I will start with my lowest rated read and work up to my highest rated reads. So we're gonna get started with my 3-star books. Let's get started with the ones that I read digitally. First, we have The Hunter by Jenika Snow. This is the erotica novella that I read this month. It is 150 pages. It is part of her series that she has coming out that are erotica novellas based on different fairy tales. So the first one was based off Beauty and the Beast. This one here was Little Red Riding Hood. And it was fine. I highly recommend you actually watch the vlog of me reading this because it is quite hilarious. Because I was a little traumatized at one point reading this because there is voyeurism, but voyeurism not in the fun way. Voyeurism in the this is just plain creepy way. I would like to get off the bus now, you know? This is Little Red Riding Hood smut. It's about this girl who goes to Alaska on this tiny remote island in a cabin that has no Wi-Fi or anything because she's like, I'm gonna disconnect from the world after my grandmother passed away. And I'm like, that's great for you, but maybe not the safest. And there is these gigantic werewolf monsters. So they kind of are a mixture, they're werewolves, basically. They're 8-foot werewolves. And that is the creature that smells her and is like, you are my mate. Let's bang it out, bow chicka wow wow. I want to put some pups in you, babe. The one thing I will tell you about this is the fact that he does have a retractable schlong. I still don't fully understand how that worked, but his schlong came in and out of his body. It was a little weird. Still don't fully understand it, but it happened. End of story. This wasn't I preferred The Beast, which was the Beauty and the Beast one, over this one. This one was just okay. It didn't also have that many Little Riding Hood vibes to it, considering everything. So yeah, it was fine. Another 3-star I read digitally was Always Being You by QB Tyler. This is a taboo adoptive sibling romance. I wanted to try more taboo romances just in general, and I really want to try more of QB's because she's the queen of taboo. The only problem is that I just don't like siblings, and I thought, I don't like siblings. I've always had an issue with step sibling romances and things like that, but not too much. Depending on where the step sibling level lives, I can get away with it. In some reverse harems, when one of them is a step sibling, it's not the end of the world because oh, they've just become my step sibling a month ago. Fine. These are adoptive siblings that have been adoptive siblings for the last 10 years, okay? She was adopted when she was 3 years old. He was 13 at the time. Now she's 19 and he is 31. And she's in her first freshman year of college. He's working and they have feelings for one another and they embark upon those feelings with one another. So it's an adoptive sibling romance, and I just couldn't do it. I was able to suspend my... I think this was really well written. Regardless of my rating for this book, which I'm not putting on Goodreads because I don't think it's fair for me to rate this book on Goodreads 3 stars, because this book was actually a very well written book. It was a well written book. The smut was extremely hot. It was some of the best written smut I've ever, QB writes hot sex scenes. The only problem is that it was still uncomfortable for me to read it because she'd be like, oh, my brother this, and he'd be like, but my little sister that, and it weirded me out in the scenes when they would refer to each other as that. During the sexy times, it was just creepy, okay? And then pair that with the fact that they threw in the daddy kink. They threw in the daddy kink. Bro, this is a adoptive sibling romance. Why would you go even further by throwing the daddy kink into it? That is just too I also don't like the daddy kink. If you're new to my channel, I do not like the daddy kink, okay? But there are times when I expect the daddy kink. There are times when I expect it. If I'm reading an adoptive sibling romance, I do not expect the daddy kink to appear. That makes it even creepier. Anyway, if you like taboo romances, I highly recommend this. If you do not like taboo romances, you probably shouldn't read it. Okay, now into my physical 3 out of 5 star reads. The first one we have is Last on the List by Amy Daws. This had really great potential. It actually started off very strong and then it kind of lulled in the middle, and then I finished the book and I was like, oh, it was fun, and then I kind of forgot about it. So this is a age gap nanny romance. This girl named Cozy, well, her name's Cassandra, but her next name was Cozy Cassie, and so she just goes by Cozy. You've got Cozy, and she ends up being hired by this billionaire dad as the nanny for his daughter for the summer because he's divorced from his ex-wife, and the ex-wife is traveling for the summer, and so he has full custody of the daughter over the summer and needs a nanny while he's working. And so she moves into the guest house. They are instantly attracted to one another and they end up falling in love over the course of this book. So it's like a kind of forbidden because like she is his employee, but not really, because like nannies are like a murky territory sometimes. What I really liked about this is the fact that it was super hilarious. It was some of the funniest shit I've read in my entire life. I was laughing out loud so often. One of the things that didn't work for me though was the Gen Z kind of slang that was in this. There was a lot of like slang all over the place. Like there was like bet, there was like YOLO and all those kind of things. And I was like, what? And then like TikTok and other stuff like that. And it felt odd and out of place, and it didn't feel very natural as I was reading it. So it kind of took me out of the book a little bit. And the second thing is the fact that she called him Zaddy. And now Zaddy is like a hot daddy, basically. It's weird. Look it up on Urban Dictionary if you want. But it's basically a version of the daddy kink, which reappeared again, okay? So even though Zaddy is different to daddy, it was still weird, okay? And Zaddy happened to have every once in a while, and then at the halfway mark, it suddenly became the thing. And every 5 seconds, she's calling him Zaddy. And I was just like, I don't like this, okay? I was like, no. So that was my issue with this. Otherwise, it was a super fun romance. It's also got really, really great plus size representation in it. Cassie is plus size, and you know, her relationship with her body is a big part of this book as well, and kind of her confidence in herself and her self-love and self-worth, and how she will never ever let anyone ever again bring her down to less than what she knows that she is worth. And I love that message in this. I think that the message in this of knowing who you are, not taking shit from people, being able to kind of look at life and be like, you know what, I don't like the way that I'm treated. I don't like the way that people are doing shit. And so you know what, screw you, I'm gonna do me. And if you don't like that, that's not my problem. It is not my problem if you don't accept me, as long as I accept myself. And I love that messaging in this book. So if you'd like a book with really great positivity in that sense, definitely look into this, because I think that this could work for a lot of people. This is my second time reading an Amy Daws. The very first time I tried to read her, I did actually DNF it. So maybe it's just not her writing style that works for me, but like I said, it's super hilarious. Also, Cassie makes charcuterie boards in her free time, and she ends up making penis-shaped charcuterie boards during this, which I thought was frankly hilarious. My last 3 to 5 star read is Magnolia Park by Jessa Hastings. This was a very interesting ride. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I have an entire dedicated vlog to reading Magnolia Park, so you can check that out on my channel. But 3 out of 5 stars. It took a while to get into it, and then there was a lot of fun in the middle. The middle was like, whoa, what's going on? It feels like I'm watching like a plane crash and I can't look away. And it was just like a soap opera, honestly. This book, if I had to explain it, is After by Anna Todd meets Euphoria set in the UK. So if you like After by Anna Todd, if you like Euphoria as a TV show, you'd like Gossip Girl, please check this out because I think you'd actually freaking love it. But that's what this book is an amalgamation of. I don't necessarily love those 3 things that I just mentioned. And so this book, for me, at the end of the day, it focuses on a toxic relationship, and I never rooted for the toxic relationship throughout this entire book. Oh, I do want to mention though that there is a trigger in this for overdosing. Everyone in my vlog was like, what, there's overdosing in it? Apparently no one else has mentioned this to you guys before, but there is on-page overdosing in this. So they don't die, no one dies from overdosing, but there is overdosing in this, and a lot of drug usage and alcoholism and cheating. A lot of cheating, actually. There's hella infidelity in this. Next we have my 3.5 star read, and that is Aria by Jennifer Hartmann. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this book, and I have a lot of trouble talking about it. I didn't actually vlog this book experience at all because of the fact that A, I read it over the span of 2 weeks in between other books, and B, because I just feel very conflicted overall about what I'm rating this. Aria is the beginning of Chelsea and Noah's romance. So Chelsea used to be in a extremely abusive relationship. So the first chapter, just so everyone knows, the prologue is her in her abusive relationship being almost killed by her abusive boyfriend, and then it flashes forward a couple of years after she has left him and tried to start her own life again and get back on her feet. So huge triggers for abusive relationships and PTSD from that. Just so everyone does know. There is also triggers in this for drugs, drug overdoses, alcohol, a lot of things, and you'll figure out why in a second. But you've got Chelsea, she's a waitress at this bar, and one night there's this really famous band that comes and plays, and she ends up instantly hitting it off with the lead singer, and her and the lead singer end up embarking on a romance. However, one night she gets super drunk and she ends up actually confessing all of her secrets to the lead guitarist, who is like the bad boy, the dick of the group. And the two of them actually, from her spilling her secrets to him, end up forming this like friendship, and he also ends up obviously falling for her over the course of the book, and she starts to fall for him over the course of the book, but she can't be with him because she's with the lead singer, and he can't be with her because she's with the lead singer, and so they're falling for each other, but they have this other person between them. There is like emotional cheating that does go on in this. They both definitely should be together and want to be together, but Chelsea still has never really fully recovered from her abusive relationship and still carries around a lot of that trauma and the idea that she wants to always try and fix people and has never tried to fix herself. And so because of her inability to actually love herself, she's unable to actually accept Noah's love for her. She doesn't think that she's ever worthy of him. And obviously Noah, he previously had a girlfriend that he was with, who he actually had a child with, who ended up cheating on him and left him. And so he is also a single dad, and he also doesn't trust a lot of women around him because he has this son that he has to look after. And so there's a lot of drama going on. This is a rock star romance. That's where the drugs and alcoholism all comes into it as well. So it's a very messy, very amazing book, honestly. I just think that there was some pacing issues with it, and I think that is honestly where its fault was. I think it needed a bit more of like an editorial hand to it, and I think if it had been cleaned up and rounded out a bit more, it could have been like a 4 to 5 star, but there's something about this that just doesn't hit it for me. And also the ending is kind of very messy, and also knowing that the way that this book ends, this isn't a spoiler, but that it ends and then the second half of the duet takes place like 10 fucking years later, okay? It was fun. I will probably actually continue on with it just because I want to see these two people get together, because it frustrates the shit out of me, because I love Noah. I love Noah so much, but Chelsea annoyed the shit out of me. The entire time I was like, just be with Noah, but she wouldn't be with Noah. Anyway, that was that. Okay, I had one 4-star read this month, and that is Nona the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. Tabbed the shit out of this, had a lot of fun reading it. Even own my editions over here, so beautiful. I don't have much to say about this because this is the 3rd book in a series. If you know the ᴛᴏᴛᴏ series, you know the ᴛᴏᴛᴏ series. This is a sci-fi space opera that's hella freaking queer, like queer to the moon and back. It feels like a fever dream, this entire series does. You will feel dumb as you are reading this series. You will feel like you are questioning your entire existence. You will feel like you literally own one brain cell, and you will feel dumb as rocks. But you will also, while you feel like you're in a dumb as rocks fever dream, fall helplessly in love with these characters and and you just adore this fandom, and you adore these characters, and you just adore everything about it. Like, there is no way to properly describe this series unless you have read it, because there is nothing like this series out there. It is weird as shit. It's not going to be for everyone, but if you are someone who would love this series, you will love it with your entire ass. And all I can say is one flesh, one end, bitch. Help Me Remember by Corinne Michaels. This got me out of my reading slump at the end of the month, and I'm so thankful for it. This is book 1 in her Rose Canyon series. Book 1 and 2 are out now. Corinne is also now in Kindle Unlimited, so you can read her in KU, which is really fun. I did well, actually, to be quite honest, all of these books that I read this month, I like tabbed, which is really interesting. This is a amnesia romantic suspense romance. It is so good. If you like small town romances but are looking for a fresh take, pick this up. You have got Brielle and Spencer, and when this book starts off, Brielle wakes up after being unconscious in the hospital for 4 days, and she finds out that her brother died, that her and her brother were held at gunpoint, and he died and she did not. She survived, and they're wondering if she knows who killed him and tried to kill her, and she cannot remember. She has no memory of the last 3 years. And so now no one is allowed to tell her what happened in the last 3 years. She has to try and piece her memory back for the last 3 years so that she is going to still be a viable eyewitness for the criminal court trial thing. And so she's dealing with that. At the same time, we then have Spencer, and Spencer is her dead brother's best friend, who she has had a crush on since she was a kid. And when you read this book, you end up finding out that her and Spencer actually were engaged. They were in a secret relationship for 9 months, leading up until 4 days before the accident when he proposed to her and she said yes. And they were like, okay, now we should tell everyone that we've been secretly dating, that we're now engaged. And then she's forgotten him. She has no memory of ever dating him, of ever being with him. And he is distraught because he can't even tell her. And he also has no one to lean on because they didn't tell anyone that they were dating. So no one even knows what he's going throughout this. And he used to be a investigative journalist. And so he ends up actually being the person who helps her piece her memories back together while also not being able to tell her anything. And it is so angsty, so heart-wrenching. You will ship them from the moment you meet them. Spencer is like a golden retriever. He is just the most amazing man in the entire world. The things he was saying to Brielle the entire time, my heart was just melting consistently. He was so phenomenal. I did dock off half a star because I didn't like who the reveal was for who the killer was. I didn't think, like, I was like, oh, okay, cool, but I felt like that could have been fleshed out a lot more. But other than that not being my favorite part of it, the actual romance was phenomenal and a half. Trust me, if you like small town romances, pick this up. And even if you're like, oh, romantic suspense, I don't know about that, trust me, read this. You know I hate amnesia romances. Did you know that I actually hate amnesia romances? And I love this one. For some freaking reason, if Corinne Michaels writes it, I will like it. There are so many tropes that I thought I didn't like until I read them from Corinne, and I was like, oh, JK, I'm a dumb bitch apparently. So even if you don't like amnesia romances, because I actively hate them, trust me. And last but not least, the actual only 5-star book of this month, which is The Dark King by Gina L. Maxwell. This is an urban fantasy. It is fae, it is smutty, it is Agratar meets The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare, but make it adult and NSFW 100%. So you've got Caden, and he is the Dark King of the Night Court. And the Night Court was actually banished to the human realm 200 years ago because of something that they did. And they also have a curse placed upon them where whoever the king marries ends up becoming basically a bondmate, in which case if his wife dies, he also will die. And if he gets separated from his wife, he will also die. And so it's basically like a marital curse upon his people as well. And so Caden is a Dark King. He is also him and his 2 other brothers are the rulers of Vegas. That is where the Night Court has kind of like put itself, is that they've kind of made themselves, kind of think of like, you know, Lucifer the TV show? Think of Lucifer from the TV show as Caden. Like 100%, I would totally say that they're the exact same. I love it so much. They actually are really the exact same now that I think about it, and they're just as hot. Oh, except he's fae. So make Lucifer fae. That's what you got here. So you've got him, and then you've got Bryn. And Bryn is a human girl. She ends up getting this free trip to Vegas to stay at this hotel, which is Caden's hotel. And she's there. He ends up buying her a drink one night, and the 2 of them end up waking up the next morning with absolutely no memory of what happened and married. And he's like, what the actual freaking hell is going on? This is not good, because now that he's married to Bryn, his life is now tied to her life, and she has no idea how this even happened, and she's just this regular mortal girl who got caught up in this. Or is she? Because technically the curse shouldn't have happened if she was mortal. The mortals don't count towards the curse, which means that she is something else, but she doesn't know what she is. And so it's the 2 of them. This is the very first book in their romance. It is so amazing. It is one of my favorite fantasy romances that I've read this year. One of my top 3 fantasy romances that I have read this year, hands down. If you are looking for a new fantasy romance, please read this. It is like catnip. You will sit there and be like, la, 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 you know, deliciousness. It is also smutty, got a little bit of BDSM action going on. Kind of like Christian Grey, he does actually have a room, but it's not like creepy. Anyway, love this, love the fae. Can't wait for the next book. The next book is coming out next year, and it is following his brother's romance. So excited. His brother kind of reminds me of Cassian, to be quite honest with you. I'm so excited for that. But yeah, that is it. That is what I read in the month of September. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please go to my channel, and don't forget to check me out over on Instagram and on TikTok. And until next time, thanks a bunch everyone. Bye-bye.